Okay, well, let's go. Let's go there. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back. We are finishing up our first day of Generosity Without Borders, Generosidad Sem Fronteiras, Generosidade Sem Fronteiras. I hope you've enjoyed the sessions, and I really hope you are feeling more knowledgeable and inspired. We've got one more session today, and I hope I'm certain nobody will mind if I say that we might have saved the best for last. É melhor por último, o melhor por último. As usual, as you already know, there's translation. Just click on the globe, hay traducción, a tradução en español, en portugués, clica en el globo. Ya lo saben. The video is being recorded. It's going to be made available as soon as we finish the session and Zoom processes it. So you can all come back after today, after tomorrow, and rewatch everything. It will be available for all of the month of September for all of you. There is going to be an evaluation when we finish the session. We really want you to give us feedback on the session. And tomorrow, after the event, we want to hear you about the event. Feel free to use the chat. Feel free to leave your question on Q&A. The resources are all here available to you. The house is yours. For our last reflections on generosity today, we go back to the key idea, and mark my words, the key idea that generosity isn't just a feel-good concept. It's a powerful force for systems change. Generosidad, is not just a feel-good concept. It's a force, a very powerful force, una fuerza for systems change. And on that, we've asked our speakers to explore how can we harness that generosity to tackle some of the world's biggest challenges, from personal well-being to social justice and sustainable development. This time, our speakers come from within the Giving Tuesday movement, from within our own home, starting with one of, I think, the second person I ever met in the movement, our CEO for the Giving Tuesday movement and organization, Asha Curran. I will introduce her in a few seconds, but I remember when I first learned about Giving Tuesday back in 2012, I was leading the Brazilian Fundraiser Association, and I saw that idea. And in Brazil, I think, as in many other countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, we don't we don't have the concept of giving days. It doesn't exist in our culture. Giving days, giving back, and even giving circles that we've been promoting now. Now people talk more about giving circles, but the concept of a giving day was something very new to us. And I learned about Giving Tuesday. I saw it happen in the US the first time, and I thought to myself, why can't we do something like that in Brazil? Why can't we bring it to Brazil? So I reached out. I wrote to them. I met, I think it was Melissa, the first person who ever answered me. And then eventually I met Asha, and it was the first time I actually got engaged with an American organization, and even given in because of Giving Tuesday, it was the first time I ever met and went to New York in my whole life, and had an amazing experience. But that's ages ago. The conversation today will be in English, you all know, and it has translations into Spanish and Portuguese. And having made this first introduction, let me welcome and to introduce our friends. So you have their images there. First, we will hear from Asha. Asha is the CEO of Giving Tuesday. She serves as chair of the board of Guardian.org, as a board member of the Resource Alliance, as a member of the Alliance Magazine Editorial Advisory Council as well. Asha was named to the inaugural Time 100 philanthropy list in 2025. This is very fresh, and also the nonprofit Times Top 50 Power. I think this was like last week or 2 weeks ago. This is very recent, and also being part of Influence List annually, 2019 through 2024. when she was also honored as Influencer of the Year. She will be joined after her first remarks. She will be joined by Pablo and by Diana. And to make this more dynamic, I will introduce Pablo and Diana's CVs now, and Asha will invite them to the room and engage in conversation with both of them as soon as she finishes. So Pablo is the executive director of AFS in the Dominican Republic. He leads initiatives for youth, global citizenship, and philanthropy. He is also the global leader for GivingTuesday in the Dominican Republic and chairs Aliança ONG, committed to strengthening the social sector in his country, and a great friend as well. Diana is a Colombian philanthropist and social entrepreneur. Through Dia para Dar Colombia, she leads initiatives that mobilize people, organizations, and companies to promote generosity as a tool for social transformation. She's also the founder of GiveSeed Foundation in the United States, an organization that connects communities and organizations in Latin America with US donors. And she doesn't have it here in her CV, but she's also the founder of Dia para Dar Colombia, one of the first, if not the first time, we actually had a local organization founded to run GivingTuesday movement within a specific country. And I'm a member of the board of Dia para Dar Colombia. Con mucho orgullo, I'm very pleased to be supporting the work in Colombia. So let me stop sharing my screen here, and we now focus on to Asha. Asha, thank you for being here. Obrigado. Thank you for sharing here, for sharing your wisdom, your inspiration with all of us. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, my camera now. The floor is all yours.
Okay, obrigado, João. I love hearing your reminiscence about the days when we first met. Those were very, very special days indeed. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you to the LAC team, JP, Esteban, and Anita for organizing these incredible days of community sharing and learning. It's lovely to be here with you all today. I wish we could be together in person, and I trust that will happen in the future. So it goes without saying that this moment in time is complicated and it is pivotal, and every conversation has to start with acknowledging that. I think these days, civil society faces unprecedented challenges, from economic uncertainty to ongoing crises around the world. On our channels every single day, we can see the suffering, to rapid shifts in policy and wondering about what shifts might come next, and much, much more. But despite these challenges, and maybe even because of these challenges, we actually have a really wonderful opportunity, the opportunity to reimagine how generosity can transform our communities. We know that healthy, thriving societies are not built from the top down. They're built from the ground up, and they're built through countless daily interactions where people exercise their agency and they show up for one another. And JP is right. This is not just something that is nice to have. This is absolutely crucial for the health of our communities. So brighter futures are built not by institutions mostly, but by citizens, by our neighbors and our friends, by grassroots leaders and community organizers, and most importantly, all of those people working together. And we can see that kind of collective action every single day of the year through GivingTuesday leaders across Latin America and the Caribbean and across the world. So I would like to tell you a little bit about GivingTuesday. For those of you who are not so familiar, just give you a little bit of background of this movement that we're a part of and the exciting work that's ahead, especially at our LAC hub. So GivingTuesday is now 13 years old. We are officially a teenager. And back in 2012, when it was first created, it was really a response to holiday consumerism, to this idea that there are 2 days here in the United States of shopping, Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but no day that is specifically to give back. And also a day to bookend December 31st, which here in the States is a very important day of giving to nonprofits, a day that a lot of people take out their checkbooks and historically give money to nonprofits, in some part at least, for a tax break. So the idea was an idea for a hashtag simply. And in those kind of newish days of social media, what if there was a day dedicated not to buying, but to giving back, driven by this incredible force multiplier of social media that those days we were just getting used to? And that question sparked what would become one of the fastest growing movements ever. So Giving Tuesday quickly evolved beyond that single day into a global year-round generosity movement. And those days that Joao was remembering, those early days, were when different countries, people in different countries like JP, would hear about Giving Tuesday, call us up and say, I'd really like to run this movement in my own country. And of course, well, maybe not of course, but our answer to that was absolutely, this is really exciting. And how could we know how to run a Giving Tuesday movement in your country? You know best. And so you have the autonomy to run this movement in the way that you think is the most authentic and the most relevant. So now Giving Tuesday leaders are in 110 countries. There are thousands of local Giving Tuesday leaders that are spearheading efforts in very small communities, medium-sized or large communities, inspiring countless hours of volunteering and goods donated and billions of dollars in charitable giving. But more than that, a sense of mutuality, a sense of shared humanity, a sense of communities caring for each other through generosity. What makes Giving Tuesday really revolutionary is that it was never about those record-breaking donations. Those are great. Civil society organizations need the resources to do the work. They need far more robust resources than they currently do almost anywhere in the world. But Giving Tuesday is also about a fundamental shifting of how we think about generosity. So from acts of giving of money or time, from individual acts of kindness to collective movements, from charitable giving to giving as a sign of mutuality, from a scarcity mindset to an abundant mindset. So our mission is simply to build a world where generosity is an unmistakable, fundamental part of everyday life, of the way we treat each other, the way we interact with people, the decisions we make on an everyday basis. The way that generosity manifests in the world also changes. It shifts and it evolves. And so does Giving Tuesday, so that we can be responsive to the world as it is and as new global challenges arrive. At the same time, we always remain true to the guiding principles that have been at the heart of Giving Tuesday since the beginning, and that are both the reason that the movement has proven so scalable and so universally resonant, and the reason that our model is simply not like any other model. So the first of those principles, there's a lot of them, but I just want to touch on two today that I think are especially relevant to the conversation we're having. The first one is the concept of co-ownership. So the concept of co-creation is a very popular buzzword in the sector and beyond now, and co-creation is really important. And the Giving Tuesday community engages in co-creation every single day on both a hyper-local and a globally connected basis. But co-ownership takes one step beyond co-creation. Philanthropy, I think as everybody on this Zoom probably knows, often concentrates power in the hands of a few organizations, ultra-high net worth individuals. Giving Tuesday flips that model on its head, and co-ownership grows more power at the grassroots. So, but from the bottom up and not from the top down, within communities, and more power in the hands of the civic leaders within those communities who are growing cultures of giving. So our leaders, again, adapt the movement to be authentic and relevant to the region that they're growing it in. They don't work for the Central Giving Tuesday organization. They work for themselves. We consider them partners. They own their piece of this movement, and the ways that they change and evolve it are what make it as strong as it is. But from a traditional institutional perspective, this type of true co-ownership is incredibly rare because it does involve unlearning some of those very important lessons about ownership and credit that we all learned in the first parts of our working lives. And in unlearning some of those pieces of conventional wisdom, we've really discovered a much deeper wisdom that underlies all of them. Our leaders are part of a network of other leaders from across the globe, the 110 countries, and they share innovations and ideas and mutual support. So it's this mix of agency and interdependence that defines our culture within the Giving Tuesday movement and our growth. We're a community of practice. We're a community of ongoing feedback loops. And it works because we have trust and because we have a shared vision. The other guiding principle that is so at the heart of everything we do is the idea of collective giving, which is quite simply what is working right now. What is actually moving the needle is collective giving. So whether we're talking about Giving Tuesday, whether we're talking about collective response to disasters, whether we're talking about a community setting up a mutual aid network, as we saw so much of during the pandemic, but is really always happening, to the growth of giving circles. People giving together is what's working. And if we want to grow giving, as we all do, that is such a critical thing to understand. Individual actions are beautiful and necessary. All collective giving is many, many of those individual actions happening together, guiding the collective toward a shared vision. So collective action is not transactional, it is transformational. And when people give together, their voices and their actions are far more powerful, and the effect on them is far more joyful and profound, and people find strong connections with other people through generosity. Right now, people feel very disconnected, so collective giving becomes more important than ever. Throughout human history, whenever great things happen, whenever great social shifts are made, it's because of collective action. Unfortunately, the inverse is true as well. In Latin America and the Caribbean, where community and solidarity are so central amongst an array of vibrant and diverse cultures, collective action isn't just a strategy, it's a natural expression of the culture. And that is true, I'm happy to say, of so many places. Those principles have been transforming Latin America and the Caribbean for a long time. And through the work of our LAC Hub and our leaders throughout the region, the impact continues to grow. There is so much potential for growth here. So rather than prescribing solutions, we want to share tools and support that enable local leaders to design their own generosity campaigns rooted in their community's unique culture and priorities with our support and with the support of many, many peers. Last year's Generosity in LAC report revealed both existing strengths and untapped potential. And the shared knowledge becomes a foundation that communities can build upon, adapting successful models to their own context and then sharing successes throughout the community. So let's imagine what a strengthened generosity ecosystem could look like across Latin America and the Caribbean. Communities where giving is reflexive, where collaboration among civil society organizations replaces competition, where businesses and schools and governments recognize civil society and civic leaders as essential partners in building more just societies. Young people are prepared not just for careers, but for lives of generous leadership, and neighbors supporting each other, not just in crisis, but in pursuit of a better shared future. This is not wishful or optimistic thinking. I mean, it is both of those things, but it's also practical. It's a practical vision based on what we're already seeing in communities across the world and what we're learning through our data commons. So the path forward requires all of us to think bigger while starting where we are. We want you to share your stories. Your experiences are the foundation of our collective learning. Without them, we know very, very little. Connect across borders to find partners beyond your immediate context. And whether you're running a grassroots organization or managing a grant-making resource, running a business, or working with the next generation, look for opportunities to give collectively rather than alone, and to encourage collective giving rather than individual giving. And lastly, be bold. Now is the time. We have a whole new sector to build for the future. The challenges we face are so real and so significant, but so is our capacity for generosity and for innovation. So I want to turn to two extraordinary leaders who embody everything that I just talked about, and who I have had the privilege of knowing for a long time now. Pablo from the Dominican Republic and Diana from Colombia, who were two of the earliest leaders in our movement and have really transformed the work of the sector in their regions through these approaches to collective giving, but have also given so much to the Giving Tuesday movement. leaders across the world are using ideas from Latin America and the Caribbean and vice versa. That is the ethos of how we work. So Pablo and Diana, I'm so happy to see you both. And I would love to just ask you to begin by each talking a little about why the focus on generosity as part of everyday life? Why is that particularly relevant in your country? What in general, and what motivated you to get involved at Giving Tuesday? Diana first.
Of course. Thank you, Asha. Happy to see you. And yes, I think the first time I reached out to the movement, I had my experience in fundraising and in Colombia and in the US. And what actually inspired me was to bring other people to give in that moment. I reached out, and actually Kate, that I think she's not here, was the first one to reach out. And I just thought that, Colombia was my country. I wanted to have something different and really make like a change of their culture. We do have generosity actions in our countries, I think in Colombia or Dominican Republic or other Latin American countries, and I wanted to amplify that, show that Colombians are generous in certain ways because we have to. There is a different dynamic in our countries than, I don't know, maybe Europe or the United States. That I'm not saying that they don't need help, but it's another way to survive. So people need to relate to each other. If you don't have food, people will find food for you. If you have a house or a bed, people will share it with you. But also, we have to change that perspective. And I think with the time, the movement, I didn't thought that was going to this big now in Colombia. Then we're now talking about changing a culture with generosity. And I'm being seen it in different examples. But that's mainly why. And yeah, and we're trying to change that perspective, that is not just giving money, but giving different type of things like in kind, our talents, our actions, that they can really change even in a country like Colombia, that we have a lot of violence and people sometimes forget manners, and how we can be generous, of just saying hi. When you go to Florida, you see people saying hi. In our country, sometimes they forgot about those things. At least in Colombia, in certain areas and big cities, they forgot those matters, and that helps to build a different community and set of mind.
Isn't it amazing how those little things that are practically unmeasurable make such a difference in our daily lives and other people's daily lives? Pablo, how about you?
Well, thank you again for this opportunity. Actually, I learned about the movement in a very early stage, because I was also related to the entity where the movement was started. And it did make sense for me to see that generosity is part of our daily life. For example, in the Dominican Republic, we see a lot of generosity acts in the daily basis. When a neighbor share food, or when families open their homes, or when communities organize themselves during difficult times. Whenever there is a hurricane or a storm, movement of social needs are all over the place. This everyday generosity was what sustained the civil society in the Dominican Republic as well, especially in the context where institutions often fall short. And that motivated me to get involved. And I realized that this cultural habit of generosity could be elevated from informal, individual acts of kindness into an structured collective action that truly changed the system. And then through my work with AFS, I have seen how generosity in the form of hospitality, when families welcoming young students from abroad, becomes a tool for intercultural learning, as an example. And also through Alianza ONG, which is the entity when I'm the chair, I have seen how the civil society organizations come together to amplify their voices in national policy and regulation. And through Un Día para Dar, Dominican Republic, which is GivingTuesday, Dominican Republic, I have seen thousands of small actions that can connect into one powerful of solidarity across the country.
Wonderful. And let's talk specifically for a minute about collective giving and collective action. It's interesting to me in traveling the world, visiting different places where Giving Tuesday exists or places where it doesn't exist, that sometimes it's much more embedded, collective giving or collective generosity in a culture, and in other places it needs to work a little bit harder. What are some of the, if you can think of any kind of powerful examples of collective generosity that you both have seen? How about you, Pablo, while you have the floor?
Well, actually, we often say that collective actions are in our DNA, Latin America and the Caribbean, and it is true. Some of the most powerful examples I have witnessed include in Giving Tuesday, like in Villa Paradar in the Dominican Republic, where schools, non-for-profit companies, and communities act together, proving that generosity is stronger when shared. And also within Comunidad Solidaria, which is our country adaptation of the Starling Collective, where leaders of all ages co-create community projects. This initiative has already empowered 2 cohorts, and we are now preparing for a 3rd one focused on community leadership for environmental preservation with the support of the Dominican government. And most recently, we have our national philanthropy gathering, which became the Red de Filantropía, which is like a network of entities that came together to try to improve the ecosystem of philanthropy in the Dominican Republic. It brought together businesses, leaders, universities, non-for-profit, and all these organizations are taking very important steps to become a coalition of institutions actively working to elevate the country's philanthropy ecosystem. With this, with the support of Giving Tuesday and also with the support of WINS and European Union, these are some examples of what I have seen in the region. Generosity is not only a cultural tradition, it is also a strategy for resilience and transformation.
Indeed, we could have a whole conversation about generosity and resilience at a separate time, but indeed. Diana, how about you?
Yes, I think generosity, we have to see it like a strategy also. I think at the beginning when I start Giving Tuesday, start talking to nonprofits, the reason was generosity, how we can act together to be more generous and activate different sectors. So from the beginning, that we launch an event, we have at the beginning 30 organizations that join us and community leaders that they believe in the movement. And they work from the beginning, then they become, some of them, leaders from different regions and local areas in Colombia. So you can start seeing there how the movement start being transforming in collectively and start doing things together as an effort. With the time, we get together, we strategize, and we're like, okay, how we can make this to go and extend it. And they actually use their own platforms, their own resources, their own organizations to amplify the communication about generosity. And we start expanding, and they try to reach out to other organizations, other actors in their areas, like, I don't know, Atlántico in Barranquilla, the people are from Colombia, from that region. They start like doing a bigger collective there, and how they can start like maybe funding things together, find people that will listen to them to help a certain topic. And also with the time, we did also a Starling Collective. And I think with just the name, you can understand a little bit what it means. That Starling is, for those that they don't know what it is a bird that is those that you see in the sky, that they always fly together and synchronize. So I think that program in Colombia was a good opportunity to work as one and synchronize other leaders or community leaders. We found great people that they breathe about community generosity in their daily life. The only thing is that maybe they don't use the word generosity, but they are doing it. And I think that's the most important thing. And with Starling, we had the opportunity to amplify this project. So we did a program to help them to have training, in different areas, and also give them as seed funding. And it was amazing to see all the impact that we can create just in 10 leaders, and now some of them become also leaders in locally. And so you can see how, like I'm explaining this, so you can see how it's growing and growing and growing. And it's not about numbers, but sometimes just one person in one area can do a great impact. And actually one of them now is GivingTuesday Spark leader, and we hope that she can amplify this too in the youth. And our next cohort, we want to invite youth to talk about their projects, how we can amplify, help them, because we need them to lead the future. Okay, we are like in this moment, but we need the next generation to have that set of mind of what we can do next, because we're in uncertain times, like you said, Asha, where we have funds that are being cut in different Latin American countries. Colombia is one of them too, and is being gravely impacted. That now we have to think about how we go from local to national and to global, and really make this our actions and have the power from our own, so this doesn't happen again. I think we can do it. We are creating a system where we're getting together, and Wings, that I know they're here, being very helpful to create that system for philanthropy. And I think GivingTuesday and them and other actors in the network, we can really amplify this message, because it's not just that it's pretty, because a lot of people said, oh, generosity is something beautiful. No, it's about changing a culture, and that's what I'm trying to do in Colombia, and I think that's why it's being impactful and people are listening to it.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, generosity is one of those things like sidewalks that it's very, very easy to ignore, but if it suddenly disappeared, you would really notice it, right? Everything would be an absolute mess. It's that way with almost all infrastructure, but generosity is special in that way. So my last question for you guys, I know we're going to run out of time. I get asked a lot, this is really interesting. Generosity is really inspiring, and it's a pretty obvious connection if you work in fundraising, or if you work in civil society, how you might start to make some of these changes or adapt some of these lessons. I know we have people on this webinar who are in education, who are in the business sector, possibly who are in the policy sector. And if they say, how do I take some of these principles into my own work, into my own life? What advice would you give? Tiana?
Well, I will go first.
Oh, Pablo, you go first.
Well, I will say that generosity is not a charity. It is a strategy. It builds trust. So it helps institutions to gain trust. It also multiplies resources in the situation when you need it. It also creates legitimacy, because solutions are co-owned and by communities themselves. So my invitation would be to integrate generosity as a core principle of the leadership, not as something extra or optional, but as a foundation of how we design programs, or how they design programs and projects, how we run businesses, and how we get together and connect with the communities as well. When we give together, whether through a grassroots volunteer project or a national coalition or a global movement, we are not only helping others, we are actually reshaping how our society sustains itself. From the very beginning, when I get to know the movement, and I thought about the powerful, or not the powerful, about the needs of my country, I was able to see how the opportunities were available all over. Like many organizations, many private institutions or schools are always there. And what is missing is how we do connect together, and we as a collective power build changes. And it is possible. And I really hope that we can work towards that from Dominican Republic and through all the region. And so that would be my message. Take advantage of this as a tool for strategy.
Excellent. Diana?
Yeah, I will go to that route too. At the beginning, in the first 2 years, we had the opportunity to work with some companies, and they were able to do campaigns with their employees. So it was a nice way to, to get together, with the employees, but also to bring generosity to their workplace. And actually, as we know, there's a study that says that if we we actually feel better, and that makes a change in our body. So that in a company is a gem, is a treasure. So use generosity to, to support and be more healthy, mentally healthy with your employees. But also it's a strategy, as Pablo says, it's a strategy for your business. And with Un Día para Dar Colombia, Giving Tuesday Colombia, we had the opportunity to do 17 rooms too. There was another collective program that we did, and it was amazing to see the SDGs. And in there, we had the opportunity to have different sectors. It was actually one of the first times that we did have all the sectors together, the private sector, government. At least we had one, yes, but it was one, and it was the data department of Colombia, del DANE, and with several nonprofits and foundations from corporates too. So it was nice to see all of them together. They actually said we never been in a play an event that we have all of us together. So use those kind of tools to put people together, and it was through generosity. We were trying to promote SDGs with generosity to make action. So that was the idea through that, and that really called them. And we have conscious capitalism, that is a movement for corporates, and also we have Sistema B, that is the B Corps. That's how we call it is the name in Colombia, is Sistema B, and they were there, part of the panel, talking about how generosity can impact and how they were doing with communities. So so there is a place for everyone. No, it's not just for an individual or social organization. This is not just a responsibility from the social sector. I think it's a responsibility from each sector, and Generosity and Giving Tuesday can put us together. I feel like it's the glue for everyone in the system. So if we're together, we can really transfer this to hard situations like we're passing right now, and that's better than being alone.
I love those are beautiful last words. Generosity is indeed the glue that keeps us all together, and that is not only true in civil society, it is true everywhere in every sector, and that's a really good reminder. It was really lovely to see both of you. I can't wait till we're together in person again. And JP, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Yes. Oh, Diana has gone. I was going to ask her to stay for a while. Yeah, stay for a minute.
I'm here.
Before we wrap up. Well, thank you, Asha, thank you, Pablo, thank you, Diana, for all of you. What has been shared in this afternoon is not only, well, it's what Giving Tuesday believes and has been working on for so many years, and it's all also translated into our strategic plan, into the document that we released very recently, called Together We Give. And you can actually download it through the resources here in the Zoom chat, the English version and the Spanish version. And we were very careful, and I wanted to share that and have them all here while I'm doing it, because we were very careful in not only translating concepts into Spanish, but actually adapting them in a way that they make sense for our culture, for our language. Because Giving Tuesday is a global movement, and being a global movement, sometimes we need to use one global language to communicate all of us, but we respect every local identity and culture, and we work in a way that, and you pretty much all of you know that Giving Tuesday is run by people on the ground, by Diana, by Pablo. When I was a leader in Brazil, I loved working with communities and running community campaigns as well, and now we support that. When we translated the strategic plan into Spanish, we took attention and the care to adjust expressions like collective giving that won't have a same sense in Spanish as it has in English. So we translated it as collective generosity, generosidad coletiva. It's the same thing for Portuguese. It doesn't make sense. Doação coletiva in Portuguese. So we say it, generosidade coletiva. It's not the same, but it's the same. And that's how we make it our own. We embrace it. We understand it and we promote it, and that's how we grow generosity and work to grow generosity and have generosity as one cause that unites us all for a better world, for a better society, a stronger society. So thank you again, Asha, Pablo, and Diana, for being here with us. Now, Diana, you can go, but I wanted to share this last comment before I give my final words to everybody. Thank you all. We are wrapping up the first day. Cerramos. Tchau, tchau. Cerramos. Terminamos. We're finishing the first day. It's been a great day. It's been wonderful to be here with you all. I want, before I leave, before we all go, I want to thank all of the partners that we have, the 40 partners that we have, all of our speakers, 50 speakers from 19 countries, most of them from Latin America and the Caribbean. I want to say thank you, gracias, obrigado, to our translators. They coming from Mexico and from Brazil to be here and deliver the best translation ever for you to feel included as well. Tomorrow we have a packed agenda, 5 more hours, one plenary in the beginning, 15 sessions in the middle, one last plenary in the end to close the event in high spirits, working up to Giving Tuesday this year, December 2nd. Tomorrow you will see less from me. You know Anita, who is part of our LAC Hub team as well. But I will be back in the final session just to say a few more words because I like to be around, okay? Thank you all for being here. Gracias a ustedes por estarem con nosotros. Obrigado a todo mundo. Que tenham bom dia, a great day. See you tomorrow. Bye bye. Ciao.